So to summarize, first thing you need to do if your company hasn't done it globally is to adjust your settings. So these are some of the examples. So I want to display your T codes in your menus, and that's the menu path. And you also want to make sure that you're seeing the T code field, the OK, they call it the OK code field, and don't want to have additional pop-ups that will really slow you down, especially in the browser. You can't just use the enter key, so better just to have it in the status bar. You can upload your old favorites from SAP, so you just go to, in your old SAP, you download your favorites as a TXT file, text file, and then in the new SAP HANA, you just go more favorites, upload them. So some of the changes that we've seen are listed here. Like the top left-hand corner still exists. That's to stop or create new session. That doesn't exist in the browser view. To get out of a screen, you can use the escape key, which is mean cancel, but to back up one screen is the little triangle next to the SAP logo. The status bar is on the top instead of the bottom right, and it can only display one thing at a time, so I usually display the T code. The exit, it's on the bottom right-hand corner. It's either, whether it's exit, to cancel, or to save, it's on the bottom right-hand corner. And you can always use the keyboard shortcut for those, like Control S for save, escape key for cancel. To execute, you can use the function key F8, but the execute often now is on the bottom right-hand corner as well. In IHO1, we saw that there were some changes, and here's a screenshot of what the legend looks like. So some of the icons have changed a little bit. The colors are still pretty much the same. And it's not easy now to see if substructure has content because the triangles are not intelligent. They don't not display if there's nothing underneath unless you've expanded all. So you could show better to show like a column of data that shows that there's a construction type or assembly in the assets. There's checkboxes to select, so you can still do the old click, shift, click, control clicking to select multiples on the actual descriptions or function locations, but you can also now use the checkboxes. So you can, just like the previous versions, you should set your SAP global as the super user should own that T code, so that sets your global settings for all the users. And you can also set your global column arrangement so that you'd show the construction type, planner group, so on. In S-Pro, that can be done. We saw how in operations in an order, the buttons have moved. Instead of on the bottom, they're up on the top of the list of operations. You also have the selection boxes now. The PRT icon is now just a wrench. And some of the other buttons have changed, like the minus is to delete a row and so on. There's a new feature, either from IW31 or from within a work order that's saved. On the operation tab, you'll see the create follow-up order. Some of the issues we saw within a browser view were things like there's no status bar to show the T code, client, or process time of a transaction. The field history isn't easily activated. You can't just use the backspace. You can use the space bar or type, but it doesn't seem to always work. In an order, if you use the extra menu, and just by hovering over services for objects, it pops it up. So that's something that's a bit of a gotcha. So that hopefully that will be remedied in the future. Now in the non-browser, in the standard GUI mode, it's that services for objects option isn't in the menu. It's in the top left corner, like in standard in the current SAP ECC6. Now, if you have errors when you're in the component tab of an order, sometimes the escape key just will, you can't exit the error with the escape key. You have to remedy each error, like by deleting the content of the cells and then tabbing and so on. So it's very awkward. And sometimes when you get an error in an order, it just kicks you right out of the order. So you want to make sure in the browser mode you save. Listing material search options, in our version it does list very, very slowly, but hopefully that won't be the case in the future. And it doesn't scroll well. When you go and initially pick the list of materials, it only shows you a few. You have to use little triangles, or the rolly wheel on your mouse is probably the best way. So it's very awkward to be able to change what search engine you use for materials. And the search results can't be pinned to the screen like you can in the standard GUI. So select multiple materials. You can just get around that. Maybe a workaround would be create favorites, but that's very awkward to always have to create new favorites. The browser view does not support a network diagram to graphically make relationships between operations. CVO4N has issues with the multiple scroll bars. It doesn't fit the window very well, and it has two sets of scroll bars. It's very awkward. And when you specify a status of when you're doing a search that you only want to see, say, released documents, it will then automatically scroll you back to the top. So it's a bit of an awkward feeling. So some of the new options in S4 HANA are that many of the icons have changed. Like instead of green flag, it's now an actual word called release or put in process. Material descriptions used to be limited to 18 characters. Now they're expanded to 40. There's that new feature of new follow-up order, and row selection boxes from any list of notifications, orders, IHO1, so on. There's a new count field now in lists so that you can count the total, and you can also count by groups. The notifications can be configured now in a way in S-Pro. They can be configured to allow changes so that you can change the notification type. Now, in the older version of SAP ECC6, you could do that only for certain notification types, and only if the types had no conflicting data fields. Now it's more open, but any conflicting data fields will be basically blanked out. The mass change options have been expanded in HANA. They for whether it's mass change, master data, notifications, orders. The print order options now has been expanded also, so that you can print prior to release. That's configurable in S-Pro to allow that, and it will put the status of the order to say it was printed prior to release. Searching materials, we saw that the list that you get in a browser isn't very easy to select from. There's no scroll bars to select in the browser view. Page up and page down keys don't work in browser view. The scroll wheel works, but it's way too fast, especially using the triangles. And you can't pin it. So those are some of the browser issues. We saw some of the issues with documents, like in CVO4N. From browser or non-browser, you get two sets of scroll bars on the right, so it's a bit awkward. From a browser, once you select the status that you want to search, it automatically scrolls you back to the top. And the execute is the word command at the top left instead of the new SAP S4 HANA standard, which is on the bottom right. So there's some inconsistency still. This we didn't cover, but just a little extra for you is a CJ20N for Project Builder. All the things you can do with SAP PS projects is in one transaction now. And there's some of the settings that you can adjust for CJ20N. Just go to More Settings, and as you first launch CJ20N, it gives you an option right away there to modify your settings, your defaults. There's also the MMCL transaction has been replaced by BMBC, which is Batch Info Cockpit, so for searching materials. So you can search by characteristics and so on now in BMBC. So if you go to MMCL, it automatically loads you to BMBC.